What's up guys, I'm BTC. With the recent changes on the PTR, some have started to declare that the Goats comp is dead. But is it? Let's take a closer look. This certainly isn't the first time that people have said the Goats comp, triple tank, triple support is dead, but every time it just keeps hanging on and it won't go away. So is this time going to be any different? Well, let's quickly look at what the changes are. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on each of these because I already mentioned it in a previous video, but the general is that damage reduction from armor was reduced from -5 to -3. Brigitte had a nerf on her ultimate. The rally now has a maximum duration of 30 seconds, and then the armor just goes away. D.va's defense matrix, the cooldown was increased from 1 to 2 seconds, and Reaper's lifesteal was increased from 30% to 50%. A lot of times when someone says that the Goats comp is going away, it comes from a lack of understanding on how the Goats comp works and what's required to make it function and efficient. So for example, one of the previous things was when Brigitte had the shield bash nerf, where she can no longer hit the Reinhardt through the barrier, and this was supposed to be the end of the Goats comp. However, as soon as they made this change, I immediately said that this is going to make Goats comp stronger. And some people called me crazy for thinking that because, after all, Brigitte was getting a nerf, so therefore the entire comp was getting nerfed. But as it turns out, it did in fact make Goats comp stronger, because more important than Brigitte being able to bash enemies was that your team's Reinhardt now had more security and more defenses against the enemy team trying to initiate on him and trying to stun him. Part of the counterplay against Goats comp was removed, and it made it even more durable and more efficient. The other thing that was supposed to end Goats comp was the Bastion Symmetra combo, and while the pick rates for those characters did go up a tiny bit for about a week, they immediately plummeted back down. And the reason is because, first, it's only partially effective against Goats, but more than that, that particular comp with Bastion, Symmetra, and Orisa is extremely easy to counter. So what would happen is, you have the attacking team running Goats, they come in, they see the Bastion, Symmetra, they have a failed push, or they don't even push at all, they just immediately turn around, go back into the spawn room, and change to dive comp with the Sombra. They might have to do one push, and then Sombra has EMP. When she uses it, because the Bastion, the Symmetra, the Orisa, and whoever the pocket healer is, because everybody's so grouped up, that EMP is guaranteed to get at least 4 or 5 people, in which case, the rest of the team, who's on Hammond, who's on d.va, who's on Winston, they just dive into that and just completely destroy the defending team that is now utterly defenseless, and there's really no way for them to set back up again. So it was just 1, partially effective, and 2, extremely easy to counter. Now with all of these nerfs that seem to be directed towards the triple tank, triple support, and just weakening tanks in general, is this going to be enough? Let's take a look at a typical Goats comp. You start with Reinhardt, you could use Winston, but the standard is Reinhardt. You add onto that d.va and Zarya. All 3 of these characters have very high health, 2 of them have armor, and they all have protective abilities, which makes it extremely difficult to burst down any one of these 3 characters. You add onto that Brigitte, who can now have a very powerful single target heal on any of them, and she also has that area effect healing. It's a 20-meter range, and it does 16.67 healing per second. But that's not it. You add on to that a Lucio, who now can speed boost that entire group of players and move them around the map very quickly, and once they get to where they need to be, he can also provide area effect healing. And for Lucio, this comes in the form of a 12-meter radius, and it is 16.1 healing per second. So when you add both of those together, all 3 of those tanks, which already have high health, high durability, high sustainability because of their protective abilities and stuff like that, they're all getting 32.77 healing per second. But it doesn't end there, because you also add that third healer, which is either going to be a Moira or an Ana. So in this case, I'm going to use Ana because I want to show you just how crazy good that area effect healing can be, particularly with the Bionade. So when you add the Bionade onto it, when she throws it into this tightly grouped up amount of players, you're not just getting that normal healing, you now have 25 plus 24.15, which is 49.15 healing on all of your tanks. Mercy, by comparison, heals one target for 50 healing per second. So this is effectively a Mercy heal on all 3 of your tanks at the same time. But it doesn't stop there, because Ana also has the ability to provide a massive amount of single target healing, plus her ultimate, which can save any one of those very high health characters. Now, you might think that this particular lineup has low damage, but that's not the case. Even though Zarya and d.va are in the tank category, whereas Reinhardt focuses more on protection and mitigating damage for his teammates, Zarya and d.va focus more on dealing damage, and these two characters are capable of putting out just as much damage as almost any character in the damage roster. So let's take all of this, combine it with the nerfs that we just got, and look at a matchup. So you have the triple tank, triple support versus a more standard 2-2-2. So Tracer got a little bit better because of this, and Roadhog also got better because of the armor changes. So now they can put out more damage versus targets that have armor. But is this actually going to change anything? The strategy for the triple tank, triple support is the same that it's always been, to speed boost in and run over the enemy team. Sure, your Reinhardt and your d.va are a little bit more vulnerable now, but so are theirs. But the difference is your team has triple support, meaning they can heal through all of that extra damage. In fact, what might end up happening, and this sounds crazy, but it might actually make the triple support aspect even better, because now they're going to be building their ult charge faster. If your Reinhardt and your d.va are taking more damage, then your AoE healing and your Ana are going to be building ultimate faster. Because again, even with those armor changes, even with the defense matrix changes, they're not going to get burst down because they have very large health pools, which provides your healers with the opportunity to heal them back to full, and again, you build those ultimates really fast. Now, the fact that Brigitte's armor from her ultimate only lasts for 30 seconds, that's kind of a big deal, because that means that the enemy team can just try to disengage and wait for that to expire. But 30 seconds is a very long time, and you really don't want to be waiting all that time for the enemy armor to just go away. That is a huge amount of time to just kind of like throw away when you're trying to attack and capture a point. So it's not really going to be the best option to wait out that armor. What about Reaper though? Because those changes to the lifesteal are pretty significant. I do have another video coming up later on where I'll show just how good that lifesteal change is. But I don't really think it's going to have much of an impact against Goats for 2 reasons. The first is that Reaper still has difficulty getting in close. You can't use Wraith Form because then you have no escape mechanism, and you can't use Shadow Step because you'll just get completely destroyed before you even fully appear and have control of your character. So Reaper still has a problem of getting in close where he needs to be. The second issue is that while the lifesteal changes are very good in a one-on-one situation, that's not how Goats and the triple tank, triple support operates. They all stay very closely grouped up, so when Reaper gets in close, you don't just have 1 or 2 people attacking you, you generally have 3 or 4, and even with that massive increase to the lifesteal, he's still going to die incredibly fast. Now here's the thing though, we're not going to know for certain how much these changes are going to impact it, and if the support ult building is going to be enough to compensate and override for that extra damage, and all that sort of stuff. We won't know that until we have organized teams fighting in much more controlled matches, and not just random people getting together on the PTR. So once we have more clear data on how effective these things can work, then we'll be able to see on whether or not Goats is going to actually stick around. I have a feeling that Goats is at least partially going to stick around. It might change more into the dive variant, where you have a Hammond and a Winston, as opposed to maybe the d.va and the Reinhardt. You know, maybe you'll see some of those getting swapped in and out to have more mobility with it, because, for example, Hammond did get a nice little increase. I think he actually had the largest damage increase in the game when it comes to attacking versus armor. And I do have another video that I'm working on that's going to show how these armor changes are going to impact the different characters. And Hammond definitely gets a huge damage buff because of that. So you might see him run more often in these triple tank, triple support stuff. But it's still going to be some variant of Goats. The other alternative is maybe the meta just kind of slides right back into what we had before, which was just a dive comp, where you just have 2-2-2, and you get a Tracer and a Zenyatta, and maybe you'll still have the Ana there and throw in some other DPS, whatever it happens to be. But you'll have basically the dive comp that we had for almost 6 seasons or more, and it might be a mix of that. So you might see a bunch of Goats depending on the map, and you might see some dive depending on the map. But I have a feeling that it's going to end up kind of devolving into that, and we're going to end up with one of those two metas is probably what is going to happen. But as I said, we need to see how these work in organized games between teams that are actually coordinating together and not just random people on the ladder on the PTR. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.